I realize some of you guys really love formulas. So I actually came up with a couple. I don't think they're not in your book, but when it comes to this situation where you have projectile motion, you start and land in the same place at the same elevation, and yes, heads up, that's going to change. We're going to start looking at some more complicated situations. And if you remember the calculation that we went through on your quiz, you realize, yeah, your time is always going to be equal to minus 2 v naught over negative 9.8. Or, if we just leave 9.8 positive, your air time is always going to be 2 v, your initial velocity, we'll call it y, over 9.8. Okay, or 2 v naught sine theta over 9.8. So just remember that this equation, this is always going to be your vertical velocity, right? Because that's what it depends on, how long it takes gravity to whittle that down to 0 and then back to the other side. All right, so if you wanted a formula for airtime, it's going to basically be 2, your vertical velocity over g, or you can also say 2 v naught sine theta over g. Just remember that's your vertical velocity. Right? That's going to be your total airtime. And of course, half of that will be your, if you ever need to know when it's going to reach the top. All right? We can do the same thing for height. In this case, what we can use is final velocity squared equals initial velocity squared plus 2 acceleration and distance. All right, where that distance is your height, because this equation we're going to use in the vertical direction. All right, so your final velocity at your peak height is 0, so we're using that fact, 0. This is vertical, so you could say vy squared. We'll leave it there for now, plus 2 times gravity times your maximum height. You could leave it as d, but I'm just to make clear what it is we're doing here. All right, so subtract the vertical initial velocity from both sides, that squared thing, and I've got 2gh, and then divide by 2g on both sides. So then h is equal to that. And again, right, this is negative because gravity is also negative, but if you just want to think of 9.8 as gravity, and it's easier for you this way, you can just think, let's see, it is vertical velocity squared over 2g. Your maximum height is always going to be this, or if you want to include what you would have to calculate, because typically you'll get not the vertical velocity, but a overall velocity and the angle. This is going to be an equation, therefore, for the maximum height. So there you go. You've got a airtime equation. You have a height equation, and then of course we did you've got the range equation. So you've got equations for all three, if you like.